The James Show Podcast.
Top story, the shooting at the Dallas ICE facility. 2 dead. Well, 1 real person dead. The gunman killed himself when the cops located him and went to take him out. We have 2 wounded. Some people are reporting 1 wounded. Doesn't really matter. We have another in a long stream of left-wing violence that's happening. Matt Walsh, the guy that did Am I Racist and What is a Woman? Remember those 2 movies? He tweeted something interesting 2 hours ago. He said President Trump should declare a national emergency due to rampant, out-of-control left-wing violence. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I think I can make a pretty good argument for either side of that. Generally speaking, no, I don't think there should be a national emergency. Because what are you gonna do? You just gonna start arresting all Democrats? No. What are they gonna do? They're gonna go after the funding of Antifa? It's a decentralized, non-official organization here. You can cancel their bank accounts. It's not gonna do anything. They'll be able to hide their money. They'll be able to move their money. They'll be able to use crypto to get around it eventually if they're smart. So no, I don't know if that would help, if that's the right thing to do. Because it's not going to, is it going to make everyone stop calling you Nazi? Is it going to make everyone stop calling you a fascist or someone who supports a fascist, literally Hitler? Because if it's not going to do that, then we're just expanding government power in an emergency when we don't need to. On the other side of that debate, I can make a pretty good case on we do have a national emergency with out-of-control, rampant left-wing violence. Because the shooting at the ICE facility that happened in our own backyard, 5 miles away from where I'm at right now, this morning, that's the 3rd one that happened in Texas this year. We had the shooting ambush at the ICE facility in Alvarado, where like 9 people participated in the shooting. 16 total people have been rolled up and charged with different counts of being an accessory or helping the plan or helping them afterwards. 16 people. That's a lot. This isn't a mental health issue. This isn't a gun control issue. If it was a mental health issue, you couldn't find 16 people who all had their delusions arranged in facing the same direction. That's not really possible. These are people who are not psychos. They're not imagining things. They're being told untrue things. See, the media is imagining these things and putting them in their head. Politicians, I expect them to do that. But just like the media would come after me or anyone else who said the N-word in public discourse, we need to see the same sort of treatment for Nazi, fascist, Hitler, all this extreme stuff. Racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, transphobe, Islamophobe. You're always being called demeaning, dehumanizing, evil terms. And you just take it. Stop. Because it's not just about ICE facilities and it's not just about immigration. It's pretty much any issue that they feel strongly on. There has been violence about it. When it comes from like another thing, they're not just against ICE. They're not just pro-illegal immigrant. They're also pro-Palestine. How many Palestinian attacks have we had this year? I can count 3 just off of my memory banks here. The blowtorch guy in Colorado, the guy who shot the 2 Jews outside the museum in D.C., and the Free Palestine guy running over people on Bourbon Street. I guess you could throw in the Free Palestine angle on the lady or the trans, I don't even know what they were, tried to shoot up Joel Osteen's church last year, because Free Palestine was written on the gun, but she was also an illegal immigrant, so you could roll that into it, and trans, so that checks like 3 boxes on the pamphlet. But we have seen, even if you take it down a level, from shootings and blowtorching and running over people with cars, there's been like the rampant violence of just everyday lefties, not even psychos or psychopaths or sociopaths. We're talking about the people that were firebombing Tesla dealerships, the hundreds of people you saw scratching Teslas with their keys. We do have an issue. I don't know if a national emergency is the answer, but there's definitely an issue. You could take the anti-Christian angle, because there was the mass murder at the school that just happened in Minneapolis. The anti-Christian, that's another angle for the Joel Osteen shooting. Anti-Christian mass murder at the Catholic school in Nashville. That was a couple of years ago. So, yeah. There's no question half of that statement is right. We do have an issue with rampant, out-of-control leftist violence. But do we need a national emergency? The people that are inciting this violence, the people that are convincing these crazy people that they need to go take out the fascists that are ruining the country and taking them over and trying to genocide them or whatever the heck the hyperbole is, you know it needs to stop. I know it needs to stop. It's not stopping. So I'm not surprised by this. You're not surprised by this. In fact, more bad news. I expect this to continue. Now, before we make too many conclusions here, let's see what we know about this shooting and the shooter. To help me with that, it's a local media outlet, DallasExpress.com. I have their CEO on with me now, Chris Putnam. Hey, Chris.
Hey, James. Good to talk to you.
All right, so what do we know about the guy that did the shooting? This Joshua John. First off, I don't think I've ever seen John spelled Jahn, but other than that, what do we know about him?
Well, not too much. He's 29 years old. He comes from a family where the mother was pretty politically active on social media channels, very anti-2A, in fact. A lot of posts about,
Do you mean anti-Second Amendment
rights, which is yeah.
Yeah, you're talking in internet shorthand.
Ironic.
Yeah, we're having a voice conversation. You have to use the whole words for some people.
Apologies.
That's all right.
It's just very anti-Second Amendment, which is ironic in this case. I guess we'll see if she actually questions whether it was the gun that killed these folks or her son. As you know, I think it's widely reported at this point. One detainee confirmed dead, 2 in critical condition, and unknown on the balance of it, and the fact that John obviously shot himself. They're looking at his homes here in Texas and in Oklahoma. My understanding is the feds were on the scene pretty quickly to interview people associated with him. And of course, we already know that, this one Dallas-Fort Worth Antifa cell, the Elm for John Brown Gun Club, is under active federal investigation now, independently and in terms of their association with what happened with the Kirk assassination.
Because they're rolled up in both the Alvarado attack and they have done events and I don't know, commiserated with some of the groups that were that the Utah shooter was part of, the Charlie Kirk assassin was a part of. Yeah, so they're already rolled up in 2 of these. Is there a connection here, or do we even know that yet?
I don't know that we know. I can't say there's a connection yet, but there's currently active investigations, though, to obviously see if there is a formal connection. I think that is the biggest question right now is, how many of these acts of political violence and killings have been, people that obviously have some sort of serious mental disorder that have been incited by these politicians as well as the legacy media to go commit these acts versus how organized are they? What's the level of organization? And there's a lot of debate and discussion about that now, and a lot of investigation to see if, some of these are connected cells throughout the country and really globally.
Well, I find the mental illness, we have a mental health crisis approach to this just quite abrasive. If it was mental health, there wouldn't be so many similarities. When there's a pattern like this isn't just crazy psychotic people randomly lashing out. I mean, this guy, like the Kirk shooter, he tried to get away. There was a little bit of planning there, and he wasn't shooting Charlie Kirk because he thought he was Napoleon. He was shooting Charlie Kirk because he believed what the people on TV were telling him.
Correct. And by the way, that's a whole other issue we can discuss. I mean, the media's accountability for all of this, but there's also a couple of interesting similarities here that make you question whether it is a lone gunman copycat attack, or if it was coordinated. For example, he was on a roof. The shell casings were engraved with, pro-Antifa, anti-ICE messages. It looks like we're trying to confirm this, but we think we've almost got it hard confirmed that the weapon was a 30-06, which was the same kind of weapon or the same weapon used by Charlie Kirk's assassin. So there's a lot of consistencies, between what we saw there and what we saw then. And by the way, I fully agree with you. I think we're just getting started here. And until Democrats and far left Democrats in particular had an opportunity after the Kirk assassination to take the temperature down in the room. And what they did instead was they published their DNC scripted talking points. With anybody that follows how this works on social media, they all just say just about exactly the same thing, right? Because it's coming from the party, it's all scripted, and they all get issued right about the same time. And, they're these false platitudes. And then, literally immediately after that, all the same politicians that we've come to expect, that have incited this rhetoric, particularly rhetoric that inspires these types of, political hate crimes, let's call them, against our federal immigration authorities, just start doubling down. Jasmine Crockett, Ilhan Omar, Gavin Newsom, it's just Maxine Waters. It's completely predictable at this point. And I got to tell you, I don't understand what they believe they're accomplishing, because it's just hard for me to imagine that the American public is seeing this through the same lens that those far left politicians are.
Well, what they're trying to accomplish is scare people that support them into hating people like you and me so they don't listen to us on the issues. If you're facing Hitler, you're not going to debate him on his Social Security reform. You're not going to debate him on the debt ceiling. You're going to fight Hitler. And so once this rhetoric takes hold and seeps in, then not only have you won the argument, you've won every argument from here on out. Once you can convince somebody that you, me, and the guy listening to us is literally Hitler, then how on earth do you turn that person away from a Jasmine Crockett or away from an AOC or away from, the people who put that in their heads? They think that they've got some inside information, and they're just acting as a rational person would in self-preservation once they believe this crazy stuff. Now, if that's all true, Chris, then the solution is we have to get them to stop calling us Hitler. The thing I don't know, Chris, and is totally out of my control, how do we get them to stop calling us Hitler?
Well, I think that's a big challenge, particularly with these Democrats that some of the names of whom I just mentioned, that obviously live and work in these districts, which are just completely safe, districts. I mean, they have no incentive to back off this rhetoric because they know that there's no price to pay. There's no electoral penalty to pay. But on a national level, I think we resolved some of this Hitler fascist nonsense back last November. I hope we did. And so what I believe is that this isn't just compounding the reaction that, the national electorate had last November, and people are just going to become increasingly less tolerant of this nonsense and this ongoing political violence. People want to be safe at the end of the day, and they want to feel like they're safe in their homes and their neighborhoods and their towns and their states. And this is wildly out of control, as I think you and I would agree.
Totally agree.
It's like you said, it's literally, there's something every single week. And we haven't even talked for a while about all the Tesla bombings and the Tesla attacks. This has been going on now pretty much since the start of BLM. And I don't know if you saw that story this week, but they came out and said in response to the Charlotte killing that African Americans had a right to crime, effectively. And I just personally don't believe it's going to play that well with the American public.
I like what you're doing on Dallas Express right now, where you're connecting these incidences. The guy that did the shooting at the ICE facility today in Dallas, let's put that in the same storyline as the one that happened in Alvarado and the one that happened in McAllen. And, there's actually some updates. This week, the one guy from the Alvarado shooting that made bail got rearrested on, what was that, Tuesday or Monday? And
yeah.
So you guys are reporting on that. We're not even done with that shooting and parsing through all of that before we have this one. And I think that speaks volumes into how much this trend is a real thing. These aren't disparate one-off crazy people who happen to be left-wingers. We now have a pretty steady stream going here.
There's a lot of consistencies, and that's why we're investigating them closely. And we mentioned just the similarities between this shooting today and the Kirk shooting in terms of the weapon used, the casing engravings, the fact that he was shooting from a roof. It's hard to think that's coincidental. Now, it could be copycat behavior as opposed to highly organized, but that's what we're looking into. And look, the feds are looking into it as well. We know for certain that there's obviously a federal investigation of the Elm Fort John Brown Club going on, the group that was based in Dallas, Fort Worth, that attacked the Alvarado facility. And as you pointed out, this gentleman who was one of the few of that group that got released on bail, is now back in jail because they're prosecuting for hindering the prosecution of terrorism. He's destroying evidence, while out on bond. Yeah. So if it's not organized, they're sure looking to cover their tracks. And again, we don't like to draw final conclusions. We like to report the news that's in front of us. But it's fair to say that, we're making those connections, and, we'll continue to dig to understand just how loosely or tightly coordinated all these groups are nationally and both globally. There's definitely some connections. I mean, if you read the Discord,
you know what? That's
the chat logs, the chat messages, the subreddits. These people are absolutely talking to each other. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's a good pickup there. This guy rode on the bullets just like the Kirk shooter, so there's a lot of overlap with that. And it was like single shot rifle, 30-06 bullets, bolt action. There's a lot of connections to that too. Which again.
Well, James, the other thing that we know is, like, for example, the Elm Fort John Brown Club. It's always hard getting that out.
Elm Fort branch of the John Brown Gun Club. Yes,
they actively trained like militias, and so the question, or the reason the rifle is important, or the rifle type, is that might be the type of weapon that they're all training on. Now, of course, the attack on Alvarado, they were using ARs, but again, there's a similarity between the weapon used. In Arizona with Kirk's assassination, this one again could be copycat, but it could also imply have a higher level of coordination, and that's what everybody in the media, at least the truthful media, which is a small percentage, as you know, is looking into.
All right, Chris Putnam. The next thing I want to ask you about here, and maybe I should talk about this on Dallas Express. I saw a tweet from Matt Walsh, the guy who did "Am I Racist?" and "What is a Woman?" Check this out. Just bounce this off of you for the first time hearing it. He said, President Trump should declare a national emergency due to rampant, out of control left-wing violence. Your thoughts?
I guess it depends on what actions are implied in a national emergency. I don't think there's any question we're experiencing one. I mean, the facts are the facts, and the frequency of these attacks is becoming more common. And my goodness, have we already forgotten that the president himself escaped to assassination attempts, not that long ago? It's just rampant at this point. And again, we've forgotten all the Tesla attacks and, bombings, and it's really out of control. And, I'm the first person that wants to defend people's civil rights, and don't even get me started on the free speech thing. I mean, the way the media has twisted that is just absurd. But we need to do something. And if these far left politicians and their lying legacy media lapdogs aren't going to be responsible, well, then maybe it is time for the federal government to take some action.
But I don't know what they could do. How do you stop, air quote, left-wing violence? Because it's an amorphous blob. It's not like one group or even one part of the ideology. The Free Palestine people are killing folks. The anti-ICE people are killing folks. The Antifa people are killing folks. The BLM people are killing folks. There's other blue-haired spheres that I don't even know what they're into, but they're setting fire to Tesla dealerships, and they're shooting up churches and schools. And I don't know what a national emergency would do to solve that.
There's several practical things you could do. Of course, we haven't talked about in depth about the media's complicity here, but why is the White House obligated to provide a forum to these news organizations that just flatly either lie to people about what's going on, non-report, as the Dallas Morning News and Fort Worth Star-Telegram has done, about the Trans-Tifa connections and evidence in the Charlie Kirk assassination? To this day, 2 weeks later, not one story about those connections, because it's inconvenient to their political agenda and narrative. So I don't understand why the federal government needs to provide a forum to these folks. Kick them out of the press room. We got ABC, Disney, allowing Jimmy Kimmel to lie on national television about the motive of that particular assassination. He's right back on days later. That's absurd.
Well,
I don't think that
he didn't apologize either.
To platform these folks any longer.
Right. He didn't learn his lesson. And so therefore the people that listen to him are going to maintain the mindset that they're literally fighting Hitler, and there wasn't a proper apology. So I don't think. By the way, go ahead. I'm just kind of out of time.
The other part of that story, of course, is that really quickly. The other part of that story that's being non-reported purposely is the fact that two of the major ABC affiliate owners deplatformed him. They preempted him last night, are going to continue to preempt him. They don't report that part of the story. Again, inconvenient to their political agenda narrative.
We'll have to cut it off there. If you want to hear more from Chris Putnam, you should be going to the website every day anyway, DallasExpress.com. Thank you very much, sir. What are our neighbors who are cops and ICE workers in some form of law enforcement, sheriff, deputy, whatever it is? How do you think they feel about this? How do you think? Do they think this is just a one-off? Do they think this is just, this is the exception? Are any of them being shot by right-wingers? Any of them being shot by some subgroup under Team Red? Man, what's going through your mind? And if you want to call in and share, if you're a cop listening, I have a friend, Heather, who works for ICE. I wonder if she's listening. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is not fair for them. These are people who are doing a job. It is a noble job. There's nothing unethical about enforcing our immigration laws. It's something every country does. And they're getting shot for it. It's already a dangerous job. We don't even talk about the ICE agent who got killed in Oklahoma this summer. He got shot trying to take an illegal immigrant into custody. This wasn't an ambush shooting by a lefty. This was an illegal immigrant who didn't want to go home. And so to try and avoid custody, he tried to shoot his way out. ICE officer lost his life. And it barely makes a blip in the news. That's terrible. Do we not care? No, you and I care. But the media realizes that would make ICE sympathetic. That would make ICE human. That would make people concerned for the well-being of ICE. That would prove to people what a noble profession it is for these people to wake up and they put on their boots and they go to a job where they could get shot at. I don't have a job like that. No one shoots at talk show hosts. Well, not yet. I will take that back. Charlie Kirk was the radio host. Did y'all even know that? Did y'all know he was syndicated nationally? I don't think he was on in Dallas. But man, maybe I should be worried. But no, I thought, don't forget about your cop friends out there. They're not going to gripe about it. They're probably not going to post anything about it on Facebook. But if you're friends with one of them, if a cop or ICE agent or anything up and down the law enforcement spectrum, if you're friends with one of them, related to one of them, married to one of them, send them a little note. Just kind of remind them, hey, we all don't think you're literally the Gestapo. And cops, even if you don't get that text, even if you don't get the call from your friends or your family or your neighbors or whatever, just know that most of us are overwhelmingly on your side. Most of us realize this is a huge travesty and you do not deserve this. You didn't do anything wrong. And here you are, continually getting shot at. Do you think the ICE officers out there, do you think they have anyone in their ranks going, well, we have a problem with violence coming from both sides? You think any of them are saying that? I seriously doubt it. But again, here's the even worse part. I just want to be honest with you. This is not happy fun time for me. This is going to continue unless we see a stark change, which I doubt will happen because we haven't seen it yet. Expect more. And the media knows that. I'm not saying anything genius here. You know that. I know that. They know that. They just don't care. They don't care if they're inciting violence. What they care about is fighting literally Hitler. So either they're duped into thinking they're actually fighting Hitler, or they're actively deceiving people into thinking they're fighting Hitler for political power. It's pretty gross stuff. But that's the real truth. That is the big, fat, ugly truth that no one wants to talk about. This guy is not going to be the last. This shooting at the ICE facility is not going to be the last. When is it going to be the last? I don't know. You saw Jimmy Kimmel last night not apologize. He said some nice things in there, but clearly he didn't learn his lesson. You saw the Dallas Morning News. When they did the breaking news bulletin at 8 a.m., I got an email because I'm on their list. Our boss had already emailed everyone 15 minutes before I got this email from the Dallas Morning News saying there was a shooting and it was a fatal shooting. The release I got from Dallas Morning News was downplaying the ICE ambush this morning. It said heavy police presence reported near Dallas ICE offices. A heavy police response was reported Wednesday morning near the Dallas ICE field office. More than 40 units were responding to the scene in the 8100 block of North Stemmons Freeway in the Stemmons corridor. This is a developing story. Check back for updates. You knew damn well it was a shooting. Why wouldn't you include that? It's journalism. Who, what, where, when, why? You weren't even close. Yeah, there was a heavy police response. Why? Why? Were they there to get an autograph from Gabe Kaplan? Or was there a shooting? Who did the thing that brought them here? We already knew about, the cops already knew about the writing on the bullet. So all you had was the where. You had the when, to be fair, W-H-E-N. You had the when, to be fair, but you didn't bother with the why. You didn't really bother with the who. You didn't bother with the what. So no, I don't expect things to get better. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show. Hey, folks on Team Blue, are you sure you're still the good guys? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.